welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm going to be discussing a topic that I hear a lot about. It's something that people ask me about all the time, and it's about vitamin B12. I'll be answering 10 questions, so let's get started. Question number 1, what is B12? So, B12 is a vitamin. It's what we call a water-soluble vitamin. And B12 is found naturally in animal products and in dairy products. It's not found in significant amounts or in high amounts or in adequate amounts in plant foods. B12 is made from bacteria that's in the animal's tummy. And animals have the bacteria to kind of manufacture it. Actually, interestingly, humans have that bacteria too, but the bacteria occurs later down in our gut somewhere, so it's not really absorbed into the body. The next natural question I get from people is, well, how come when I go to, let's say, a health food store, I see all these plant products that say that they have B12 in them, natural source of B12? There are two classes of these products. The first class is the product that contains a very, very small amount of B12, but it's not in the amount, nowhere near the amount that would even be detectable or that we would need. The second class of foods are foods that do not contain B12. They actually contain what we call an analog to B12, which means it's sort of like a false B12. So it's something that looks like B12, it talks like B12, but it does not act like B12 because it's not B12. Okay, so now that we've settled this, the next question I get from people is, how much B12 do I actually need? Okay, let me break it down to you like this. B12 is like this rare vitamin that you only need a very, very, very tiny amount for. The amount is 2.4 micrograms. Just to break that down for you, you know how many micrograms is in 1 teaspoon? About 5 million micrograms in 1 teaspoon. So that gives you the idea that you really do not need a lot of B12 at all. And here's a cool fact about B12. The body actually holds on to B12 as long as it can. So whenever we eat a source that contains B12, actually the body tends to kind of recycle most of it. So it takes a while before a B12 deficiency will develop. It can take up to years. Nevertheless, we do need to be concerned about B12, and here's why. Why do I need B12 anyway? Who cares about this vitamin? Why do I need it? Here's why you need B12. There are 2 reasons why you need B12, 2 main reasons that we know why you need B12. Number 1 is that B12 is responsible for helping to make DNA and is responsible for our cells dividing. So we need it for cell division in the body. Number 2 is that B12 helps to make a certain substance that covers our nerves and protects the nerves in our body from damage. So if you can imagine, if you have a B12 deficiency, some of the symptoms that would present themselves from that, number 1, you will have issues with the nerves. So you might experience poor balance, you might experience memory loss. Number 2, you may experience issues with the blood. So your body may not make enough blood, number 1, or number 2, the blood that it does make, your blood cells will actually kind of clump together and look like this, and they won't necessarily divide. We call this macrocytic anemia. Next question, how do I become B12 deficient anyway? I don't want any of these things to happen to me. How do I become B12 deficient? Actually, there are risks for deficiency in any diet. But nonetheless, B12 is one for vegans. How do you become deficient? Number 1, poor diet, not eating sources of B12. Number 2, aging. You might not know this, but with age comes increased risk for B12 deficiency. It's recommended for people who are over 50 to actually take a B12 supplement. So let's move on to the most important question of all. How do I get B12 as a vegan or vegetarian? I want to say here that if you are practicing a raw vegan diet, it may be really, really hard for you to get that B12 unless you take a supplement. Vegans get their B12 from a host of foods that's fortified for B12. Some of the foods that you can get B12 from as a vegan include veggie meats or meat analogs, nutritional yeast, cereals, fortified cereals, and soy and almond milks. One of the things that I do in my household is that whenever I make certain foods, I put milk in it. So for example, whenever I make pancakes or a pie crust or a fried bread or anything like that, instead of using water, I use some of that milk. What I tend to do when I make my own veggie meats, I will put some of that nutritional yeast in there to substitute for the B12. And nutritional yeast also has a host of other B vitamins which help to give you energy, so that's great too. Also, if you're a person who loves to eat cereals, that's great for you. You can also get it from that. I'm really not a cereal person, so I don't really eat cereals, but that's another option if you love cereals and things like that. That's great. You can also get B12 from taking supplements. However, if you do that, you want to make sure that you get a special type of B12 that's called sublingual B12. What that means is that the tablet actually goes under your tongue. You don't take it as a normal pill and swallow it. The reason is that those pills are not really absorbed into the body. So if you do get a B12 supplement, make sure you get the sublingual kind because that one readily goes into the bloodstream. I also recommend going to the doctor at least once a year. And when you do your yearly physicals, ask your doctor for a B12 check. Now, remember I told you that B12 helps with cell division and making DNA? Well, it turns out that B12 works very closely with another B vitamin called folic acid. In a normal lab test, the amount of folic acid in the body can actually mask a B12 deficiency, meaning that the lab results will tell you that you're not B12 deficient when you really are. So what do you do in a situation like that? Make sure that you ask for a specific test. The type of test you would ask for is called the methylmalonic acid test. If they do a normal blood level testing of B12, that may actually be a deceptive test. So you want to get your true levels to make sure that you're eating the right amount. Now the last question is, well, why should I be vegan? If I have to think about B12 and whatever else there may be, should I just not be vegan then? Of course the answer is no. I'm going to be going more into depth about this in some of my other videos, but I don't want you to freak out. I don't want you to lose hope because this is just one thing that we have to watch. So I hope that this video was helpful and maybe answered some of the questions that you may have had about B12. And if you have any other questions that I can help you with, feel free to let me know and I'll be more than willing. Alright, thanks for watching guys. Bye!